Today I'm going to show you how to make a land use map of Brisbane Girls Grammar School that looks similar to this one here. As you can see, a land use map shows essentially what are the main structures or surfaces on land. Very quickly, you can see here are the major classrooms, here are the sport facilities, here are the admin buildings, areas of grass, and all this grey area within our boundary is essentially a cement pathway. So just from looking at this, we can see the main things that are on the land at Brisbane Girls Grammar. With land use maps, you are not showing where every single feature is. You do not need to say where bubblers are, where bathrooms are, where the tuck shop is. You are just focusing on the large structures or types of buildings. So this will be a tutorial for how to create this. So to begin with, we're going to click on map. And over here, I've already planned what are the things I want to show on this map. So having this little list, but you can create your own, will just ensure that you're not forgetting anything. Okay, so first of all, we're going to click on this magnifying glass and type in the location that you want. Here we are. Lovely. All right, and over here on this tab, we have base maps. We will need to click through a few of these at different points because this imagery layer will help us map out where all the big trees are, where the grass is, see where the actual shade is, and so on. But let's start off with community map because it gives us really clear squares that we can trace when we're drawing a lot of our buildings. Then we'll click back on layers and let's add a sketch. Okay, so we want to click on this icon here, which is a polygon, and this will allow us to basically draw shapes. Before we do that, let's change how it looks. We can change it after, but doing it beforehand also helps. So I'm going to start off with all the classrooms. I want my classrooms to be, maybe I might go with blue. And just choose colours that make sense. So obviously do green for grass or blue for rivers, depending what you're showing. But I'm going to do blue. You can change it later if needed. And then my outline colour is black. This is a transparency. You can make it darker or lighter. Eventually we'll make it fully opaque, but we can do that later. Alright, so I'm going to start off with this science building. Oops, have I clicked on that? Yes, I have. So I just want to click here and outline. Why is that stopped? There we go. Outline our classroom. Obviously we want it to be as neat as possible so it's professional, but it's okay if it's not perfect. I know not all of these are necessarily classrooms, but for the sake of this, we'll just go with it. Okay, this is really annoying. This is a meaningful lesson because it shows you that even someone who uses this quite often can make big mistakes. I am on a different computer, and so it was zooming in and out, which made it really tricky. Just be patient, and sometimes you may need to restart. So yeah, sometimes mistakes may happen. That's okay. That's why sometimes simplifying it and maybe doing more basic shapes can help. So maybe if I just ignore all those little sticky outy points because you won't see them anyway. I think these are all of the classrooms. Let me just check. A good way to check is to go back to your base maps, go back to imagery and see if you're missing anything. So that's an admin building. This is the Bain Centre for Staff. There's our sports centre, which there may be classes in there, but we'll just classify it as a sports centre for now. And okay, excellent. They're all the classrooms. The reason why I like to use the community version or even any other base map is because you'll find the squares are just a bit more even, whereas for imagery, for various reasons, the shapes don't fully align. So that's okay though, because you can change the shapes of things once they've been made. Alright, next I'm going to do admin buildings. So I'm going to name this one here classrooms. And now I'm going to add another sketch, and I'm going to call this one admin buildings. So make sure I'm clicked on this one, then I will click on sketch, and I will do the exact same thing, but this time I want them to be yellow. And I might just do a line color. So I'm just doing where there's a lot of trees. Just hit enter when you're finished with that one. But I might make it a little thicker so it is easy to see. So let's go with 5. I think that's quite safe. That took a while. Lovely. We have 2 more jobs to go. So for these last 2, we can go back to our community basement. It's a little messy, but I wonder if we can edit that. Is it editable? I don't think so. That's alright. It's not the end of the world. Okay, now I want to go back to layers, add sketch. This one is going to be called the GGS boundary. And this is where I'm just going to do the outline of the school. So I will do this as a line again, but I will make it red. Lovely. If I click on this and I click on this, you should be able to edit some of them. But I'm just looking for the one in the bottom corner. There it is. I might just, oh, there we go. Okay, add sketch, rename, paths. Alright, I'm going to go polygon, and I'm essentially going to do very light grey, and I'm pretty much going to do the border of where all of our classrooms and things are. Oops. Oh my gosh, this computer's driving me crazy. Okay, lovely. But if we drag this all the way to the bottom, there we go. Everything else sits on top of it. So it's a very nice, easy thing. Hooray. We can now change this to be light grey canvas. And here we have a lovely land use sketch of grammar. Something else now is you can look at this and make changes as needed. So I feel like our boundary could be a little bit thicker. Let's go edit, make it a bit thicker. Maybe I'll do 5. Lovely. Okay, this generally looks good. Obviously we're missing a few things. but we can clearly see that we've got classrooms, sport facilities, staff, all of this is open pathways, and then we have our little bits of shade and then our trees and greenery. See how it says Kalinga Avenue and things? We don't really want that, so we can go back to base map, click on this arrow beside the heading, and we're going to just hide the reference. Alright, now in the ideal world we would be able to print this map and it would say what all the colours are, but I don't think that's going to work. So instead, what we're going to do, firstly, we want to say what we have done because you would hate to lose this. So let's call it BGGS land use map. Again, if that name is taken, just call it something else. Land use map 1. Alright, next step is we want to click on print. And then you want to zoom so it's to the perfect level of zoom. If you have a touch screen computer, this is even easier. Mine is going to be a pain. Anyway, over here is your title. So we can write BGGS land use map. File format, I personally prefer PNG because the PDF is not really a picture that you can just easily paste into something. This is very difficult because I don't have a touch screen, so this is just going to be very touchy. For that reason, I'm just going to see if I can get it to fit anything else. No, I can't. Okay. You do not need to do this part. I'm only doing this because I actually need to fit my map somehow. Alright, what you do need to do, author, write your name. Then we want to make sure our legend is included. I don't think it will work, but I've got a solution. Then we will click include north arrow because that is part of bolts. And scale bar unit we want in kilometers. Okay, that is everything we need. You can now click export. When it's done, you can open it up and have a look at your map. Yeah, so usually it would have a legend here, but it didn't create that for me. But as you can see, it has a north arrow. It's given us a scale, which is very handy. It's got all the source information, and then our author name is over here. Okay, we're just going to go with that. So that is our land use map, but we are missing our legend. So what I would suggest is, I find PowerPoint is very easy because you can write all over the place. Okay, we have 8 features mapped, so let's make a little table. Okay, so here I'm going to write classroom. This is a very old school way of doing it. Usually it's a bit more straightforward, but because we actually created our own features, it's a little bit harder. Alright, now we want to fill these squares with the same color. Admin building, so go shading, more colors, click the eye drop and then select the color. So again, click on that cell, go shading, more colors, do the little eye drop. Alright, let's make our legend a little bit smaller. So I'm going to now go insert, shapes, line. Oopsies, where did that come from? Okay, line. And I'm doing the same thing. Eye drop, red. It's very touchy. And because I want it the exact same, I'm just going to copy and paste this line over. Click on that, shape format, outline, more outline colours, eyedrop, green. And there we go. Okay, lovely. There we have it. So we have border, we can add that afterwards. So border, orientation, legend, title, source, and scale. Lovely. So the way I would finish this off is I would then take a nice screenshot, get all the main features in, try to have it's a pretty even photo, do that, and then I can paste it in there, and then I can add my border up here. Where is it? Picture format. There we go. Lovely. There's a lovely land use map here of Girls Grammar where we can clearly see all the pathways, all the classrooms, sport facilities, shade, and more.